From the most entertaining and comic-accurate TV show to a product of corporate networking, Young Justice has seen 3 different eras in its 12 years on air. And with James Gunn's new DC universe starting its rollout, I ask myself, will we get more? Hey, and welcome back to Television Tuesday, the show where we talk TV on Tuesday and tell you all about it. My name is Garrett, and today, we'll be talking Young Justice. Young Justice started off as one of my favorite shows growing up. Seeing that pilot episode with Robin and Kid Flash and Aqualad going to save Superboy from Cadmus still brings me joy today. But over the show's 12 years on air, it's had a lot of different changes. Let me start you off by talking about the best of the best, seasons 1 and 2. Getting into the first season, the main antagonists that we deal with are this team called the Light, made up of people like Vandal Savage, Clarion the Witch Boy, Ra's al Ghul, and a lot of others. And seeing these young characters start their plots off with wanting to be a part of the Justice League and grow up and be these kind of team-oriented adults versus this team of team-oriented adults is just a really fun narrative pushing forward, especially as we see the season progress with all the individual plot lines with all the characters wrapping into them wanting to actually be more independent and kind of do their own thing whenever they're pretty disappointed after not being able to join the league. We get into really strong plot threads like with Robin and Aqualad kind of fighting and struggling with leadership positions and not knowing if they should take them or if they even want to take them. And then you've got characters like Artemis, who is the daughter and sister of recurring villains throughout season 1 who are working with the Light and hiding that and having these kind of dark secrets, much like Miss Martian, who is secretly a white Martian and had claimed to be the niece of Martian Manhunter, but secretly was not, just kind of was a stowaway going away to a better life because she saw it on TV. You've also got Superboy, the plot thread beginning, and really where the plot ends up ending as of right now is Superboy as a whole. And these characters throughout the entire season struggle with who they are, why they're there, and inner workings throughout the team, and people not really trusting them because they don't know them, and they come from kind of sketchy backgrounds. You see throughout the first season that all of these different characters have so much weight behind them, but fit so well together, and it makes the narrative so much stronger, especially towards the end of the show, when all 3 of those characters get blackmailed by the evil team. But luckily, you've got characters like Kid Flash, who's just having a good old time. Love Wally. You also have kind of side characters, but people that are recurring and will be more important later on, like Zatanna. You also, throughout season 1, get introduction to characters like Beast Boy, because the narrative in season 1 is pretty strictly about fighting the Light and fighting these characters like Clarion. But you also have some of these one-off episodes, like where we get a little bit more into like Miss Martian's reason for being there, which is she saw this TV show called Hello Megan and wanted to come to Earth, and they end up meeting the actress that played Megan, and her kid ends up being Garfield Logan or Beast Boy. Just all of these little plots that come together for this big overarching plot that really ties in directly with the characters. You know, you've got the Light's whole plot, and you've got the Light trying to take over the Justice League secretly with all of their combination of, you know, the magic and Starro and the technovirus and Clarion's magic and all that. But really what keeps you interested in the show are these characters. So much so that in season 2, there is a 5-year time jump, and quite a bit's changed. The team, the league, they're all so much bigger. The Justice League itself is quite a bit larger, while Young Justice now has, I think, 2 divisions by season 2. And part of that is some of these new upcoming heroes like Tim Drake Robin and Batgirl. You also get a lot of cool character introductions this season, like Beast Boy finally comes in. You get legacy characters like Static Shock, who I loved watching his show as a kid, and I was super excited when he came into the show. Gave me really high hopes for the future of this show. But you also, obviously, some of your biggest inclusions are characters like Impulse, who becomes a season regular, on top of Blue Beetle, who is the main focus of season 2. As the main villains, the Light, have met a new partner called the Reach. Now, I'm not going to go too much into that plot there, as if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But if you have seen it, you know it. What I'm really going to touch on is more of this great characterization. Coming out of season 1, you've got the dynamic between Superboy and Miss Martian, who were starting to, you know, feel each other a little bit, get a little romantic thing going on. But then in season 2, Miss Martian is dating the worst character in the entire show. Sorry, I said that wrong. Lagoon Boy. Still the worst character in the show. I don't like Lagoon Boy. That's a personal choice. I do know that it wasn't just this, oh, time's passed, they're in another relationship. You see Miss Martian really kind of adapt to Earth society, and she's starting to kind of get more of a feel for it. and she also realizes how strong she is. In one of the first few episodes of season 2, and that you also learn that has been happening for a while, you see Miss Martian start to abuse her power. And start to just, oh, I'm just gonna go inside your brain and take what I want, and then I'm gonna dip. And Superboy's like, I don't like that. As someone who has had people be inside their brains completely unwillingly, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't like that you're doing it, and I care about you a lot, but I'm not comfortable in this relationship. And a lot of Superboy season 2 is like, oh, I've got to deal with still kind of who I am, my place in all this, and I'm still kind of dealing with Cadmus and some of these other clones that are coming back to me, but also I miss Miss Martian. On top of this, though, you do have a good relationship with Wally and Artemis. I love it. They're just cute. They're doing good. They have their little, spouts throughout the season. The big plot for this, though, is after all of the blackmail and betrayal and secrets of the first season, Calder, or Aqualad, breaks bad. He ends up being the right-hand man to his actual biological father, Black Manta. They are working together now, and they kind of have that in. And that's created quite a bit of tension amongst the team. I know, seeing the season, Artemis is not doing very well from it, especially after Aqualad kills her during a mission. What we actually end up learning is Aqualad is actually in a deep cover mission with the Light. When he kills Artemis, she actually goes undercover with him as a different character, Tigress, who she ends up adopting later in the show after some events. This also leads to some positive things where they get into kind of an encounter and an accident where they didn't realize that Aqualad was in this deep state, and Miss Martian ends up kind of frying his brain, but not like all the way, which is just another one of those fun things from the first 2 seasons that I feel like you kind of lose in seasons 3 and 4. Seasons 1 and 2 together, in my opinion, are almost perfect television. They're just so well written, the characters are so lovely. They bring all of these characters in while still managing and balancing all of the main characters from season 1, the reason you really watch the show. Which leads me into season 3, where they forget how to do that. Season 3, generally, the plots go along the lines of most of your, a sect of your main characters go to this other country because of this metahuman trafficking ring. The prince there, Geoforce, ends up becoming a metahuman. They end up meeting this girl, Halo, who was kind of dead, which is a whole nother thing. And those are the characters they lean on throughout pretty much the whole rest of the season. You really don't get to see much from characters like Aqualad because he's become Aquaman and is now leading the Justice League after another time jump. Nightwing, who is leading Young Justice, but doesn't really have too much time for all these missions. He's kind of just assigning and not really partaking as much. You see Zatanna. She gets to see her dad once a year. That's great. Not too much. Tigress has kind of left the team for the most part because of the next thing, which is Wally. Wally, you really don't see too much this season, mostly because he died at the end of season 2. So that's a big factor. Wally, just touching on it for a moment, one of my favorite characters. I love Wally. Genuinely made me very upset. I think any show that can strike genuine emotion in you is a pretty good show. And this did it. But then after he died, it seemed like so did some of the front running for the show, which I can't blame for them. After season 2, the show got canceled. It got picked back up, and everybody was like, yay! And they were like, where's it gonna be? Netflix? They went, no. DC, us. We're gonna open our own streaming service. And we're gonna give you shows like Young Justice Season 3, and Titans, and Doom Patrol. And we're only gonna be around for about a year because we don't do this very well. That was a big factor in the show's kind of decline, They got budget cuts. It wasn't getting a ton of love and attention that it was when it was on a network. For this reason, the show just kind of greatly diminishes in season 3. You've got these new characters that people don't really care about. You've got these plot lines that people don't really care about. Even the main overarching plot line with the Light is kind of vague, and you're like dealing with Granny Goodness, who's under Darkseid, which is like cool, but really the only cool thing this season, or the thing that I really enjoyed watching, was you get to see the Light's creation, and you get to see Vandal Savage's backstory. You get to see when he first became an immortal and followed him for a few episodes and kind of got a little bit about, his son and his daughter and Atlantis, so you get the prereqs to it. That stuff was all really cool. Love seeing that. So glad we got it. Miss Martian and Superboy are pretty relevant throughout the season still. Their relationship, they got back together. They're doing good. Yeah, overall, as much as I love the show, season 3 was kind of forgettable, and honestly, made me wait a long time to watch season 4 when it came out. Young Justice Season 4 got another green light. super happy about it. Still love the show. I've been rewatching seasons 1 and 2 and skipping 3 for quite some time at this point. It was good. It was a good season. It was a strong season. In season 3, you lose your characters, you get some plot, but it's not as cool because you don't care about it. Season 4, they're like, we're gonna give you mini arcs of all of the original characters and what they're doing. And you get the first plot where Superboy and Miss Martian are getting married on Mars with Beast Boy. And Superboy dies, and Beast Boy gets scarred, and his whole plot takes off, which, for him being a side character, his plot throughout this season was actually really good, and I really did enjoy it. And I thought it was a really meaningful season because of it. And then you jump into the next one, which has Tigress and dealing with the League and Orphan, and it's cool. It's like, yeah, I like seeing these characters. That's great. Then you get Zatanna, and she's dealing with people like Mary Marvel and up-and-coming magicians, and they're fighting Child, who is this little girl version of Clarion the Witch Boy, and they're dealing with, you know, the Lords of Chaos versus the Lords of Order, and still cool plot. And I really like Mary Marvel, and her plot line's going pretty far, because at the end of the season, we see her take a bit of a turn. Then you get Calder, his plot. Atlantis is kind of in a time of political struggle, and Arian, Vandal Savage's son, this immortal man who started Atlantis, has suddenly come back and is ready to take the throne. Until you find out that it's actually a Cadmus clone, and he was Ocean Master, and you get the plot with Rocket going to the home of the New Gods. They do some cool stuff there with the New Gods, because I do like that, but overall, they're just kind of talking, really, nothing super crazy. Shout out Razor from the Green Lantern show. This was dope. Like, seeing 2 rings on a person is just cool. Makes my inner child happy, you know, makes my inner adult happy. It's just cool writing, cool little fun addition, something that I really liked from the show. You know, some of these little things that they were setting up in the first couple seasons that they just kind of drop. And I'm glad that we did get back to the roots of our original characters and we're seeing them again. That's great. But season 4 had barely any plot. The main plot was that Superboy died, but really he didn't die. He ended up in the Phantom Zone, and there he meets General Zod. And then they get freed, and Superboy kind of gets taken over by Zod, and they have this big fight until the League defeats them. And it's like, you know, we really didn't do anything with the main villains, the Light, even though I guess Clarion popped up, Arian, you know, the little things, Ocean Master. At the end, you see Darkseid, and he's with Supergirl and Mary Marvel, and I'm like, that's cool. I want to see more of that. This whole Superboy and Zod plot, it's like, you don't even learn about Zod until like 3/4 of the way through the season. It just feels like the main plot was a subplot. And so while we got all this great characterization once again, we lost our plot. We don't have this great big narrative like we had with the Reach or with the Light in season 1. Now here, this is for you, James Gunn, controller of DC things. As of right now, I don't believe Young Justice has been renewed for season 5. But I'm here to ask you, as a fan, give me one more. Give me one more season, James Gunn. Give me that classic season 1 and 2. Wrap it up. Give us Darkseid War. If you're a real comic book fan, you'll want to see that cool fight with these beautiful characters we've written. I didn't write, but there were people that wrote them that weren't you either. But get them again. Write it. Finish this story off strong. Me and many, many other fans would really enjoy it, and it is such a long time coming for something that will probably stretch out to 15 years by the time it gets done, assuming it gets picked up again. I just think that with everything going on with the Superman film now and the Batman film, the Batman films are just kind of in toss-up. I think that tying a nice bow on one of those last DC projects that honestly was very admired by fans, but also just has been going on for so long, would be a really good step into really certifying your own DC platform. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Television Tuesday, presented by Studio 24. And if you did like it, go check out some of our other videos. We've got more of these TV Tuesdays with episodes like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Tires, House of the Dragon. We also have our sister show, Studio Cinema Saturday, and we've got a ton of episodes of those on the channel with things like X, Planet of the Apes, and Captain America. So get off this video. Go watch more. Please, go watch more.